community. And so all of our events brought those communities together. So this particular image is from the workshop that we did on expressive arts therapy from an African-centered lens. So, next slide. Oh, that's pretty. I didn't know I was even going to do that. So the project, as I said, was an outgrowth of the ABPsi program. And this is who our primary funder was, the Office of Statewide Health Planning and Development. It was based out of the California Institute of Integral Studies. And we also partnered with 3 community-based organizations. So the Bay Area Association of Black Psychologists, Rafiki Coalition for Health and Wellness, and the Health and Human Resource Education Center, HHREC. And the goals of the project were to reduce stigma associated with mental health. And that was really because of the work that Rachel had done and had experienced as someone entering into the field of mental health as a clinician. And
in the Black community.
In the Black community. And the stigma goes both ways. So family members would say, why are you going into this field that pathologizes us, that criminalizes us? And so there's stigma on both sides. So that was one of our objectives, to encourage people of African descent to pursue careers in psychology and mental health, to increase knowledge and application of Black African psychology, and to expand mental health workers to include community healers, artists, faith leaders, family members, because when we do mental health and wellness, it's not just this one little narrow model of people who engage in that work. And so we really wanted to inform and include the full community in the work that we do. And also to provide leadership opportunities and to create a community of leaders and healers. And I think we've done that. We're going to hear from our community of leaders and healers in a little bit. So, is it still me?
Yeah.
Still me? Okay.
One more. This is the last one.
This is the last one? Okay. Because I'm not going to stand here and talk the whole time. Although I could, but I'm not. So when we were sitting and we were thinking about, how would we do this program and how would we do this project? So we thought, okay, we can do it in 3 components. So the first component is creating a leadership cohort. So one of the things that we learned from doing the ABPsi pilot is that this cohort model was really, really powerful. So having a group of people come together that got direct attention and direct judgeship, and so that they could be a cohort of learners together. And so that was one of the main components. And so in doing that, we wanted to recruit, and Lynesha's going to talk about this a little bit later, a really broad and diverse group of people to be a part of this cohort. And we took them through this application process that she's going to talk about a little bit later. And part of the recruitment process was doing a series of information sessions. The second piece was doing a workshop series. So the series of workshops covered a broad range of Black psychology topics. And so initially we were going to do several additional workshops due to some funding delays. The workshop series was shortened, but it worked out perfect in the end. So we did a series of workshops specifically focused on different aspects of Black psychology. And then we recruited participants to come and attend the workshops. We also had an online webinar and classroom space. And this was really unique for our project, because frequently you have to physically be in the space to participate. So everything that we did was available online via webinar through Zoom. So we had people who participated in the entire process, both as leadership cohort members and as workshop participants, completely online. And we also created classroom spaces using Google Classroom. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. And then the last component was doing this one-day symposium. So the symposium was the capstone for the leadership cohort. Originally, we thought we would do a symposium and all of these people would come in from the community and it would just be like the standard sort of presentation. But what it turned into was a whole other thing. And I'm going to have them talk about it. It was so beautiful and so powerful. Yes. And so the participants in the leadership cohort, they designed the symposium. And I had been telling them from the very beginning, the symposium is yours. They didn't believe me. We were about a month or two before the symposium was going to happen, and I kept reminding them, I'm like, you all, if you don't have a theme, if you don't have a name, if you don't have presentations, we're just going to all be sitting in a circle in an empty room. I mean, we're going to get the food and decorate the place, but that's about all we're going to do. So the content is completely yours. And what they produced was powerful.
Yes. Wow. Greetings, everyone. Hello, hello. So as Adeeba said, I'm Lynesha Cately. I worked as the community outreach assistant on this wonderful project. So I want to talk a little bit about the leadership cohort. So the people that were there day in and day out and saw this project throughout its entirety. I see some of our lovely cohort leaders in the audience. Hello. So a little bit about the cohort, the leadership cohort. So it was a 7-month commitment in which leaders were able to process, or it was comprised of 5 workshops about Black psychology. So the expectation was that they would attend all 5 workshops and build off of that, so that when we come to the symposium, they would have material, things that they've learned throughout the workshops, and be able to share out with the greater community. There was a stipend involved, so they got a little money, as well as a certificate of completion for the program. So in terms of who was in the leadership cohort, Adeeba and I worked together to develop like a scale, because we wanted people to come from different backgrounds, gender, experience, community involvement, students, things like that. So we sat down one day in a coffee shop and just kind of like went through all the applications. We were charged with choosing 10 leadership cohort members. We ended up with 20. It was just such an influx of talent, of people who were willing to do the work and committed to doing the work, that we just couldn't say no. So we made it work with these 20 leadership members, cohort leadership members.
Before you go to the next one, so this first point that's up here identifies a person with lived Black African experience. That was really, really important because we saw the leadership cohort as being a sacred group. And so the workshops are open to anyone. So no matter what background you came from, whatever race, whatever, the workshops are completely open to the public. But the leadership cohort was a sacred community of healers that we were intentional around creating. And so when we were sitting down at the cafe and we were going through and we were seeing the applications, and so some of those questions on there were speaking to their commitment and their lived experience. And so my way in which I would have all kinds of people come up to me and go, well, can I be in the cohort? And my answer is, have you had a lived Black experience? And they could decide whether they did or not. And so that was a really, really important aspect to it. Because as we moved through, one of the comments that we consistently got was what you all are experiencing here at the ABPsi convention, is how powerful it was to be in a space with Black folk and to be in community. And so that we explicitly had that as one of the requirements of being a part of the leadership cohort.
And I think it was really important that was one of the expectations of the cohort members, because we wanted to create a safe space for people to come together and talk about those experiences that they weren't necessarily able to communicate, maybe within their workplace, maybe within the field. Talking about being the only, in spaces was really important. So we wanted to really foster that and support that. So that's why some of the requirements was that it was a lived Black experience within the cohort members. Some of the participation requirements, like I said, they were able to commit to 7 months of learning, that they would attend all of the workshops and the symposium and participate in the symposium as well. Whether it be, background support, maybe they wanted to do a poster presentation, maybe they wanted to do a dance, a song, we had it all. It was beautiful. And then we also had 2 to 3 hours of planning. So we had some learners or some cohort members that were from all over the world. So we had 2 cohort leaders in LA and then one in New Orleans. So thanks to technology, we were able to connect with them and also, you know, have them involved in the process. And 2 of them actually made it up to the Bay Area for the symposium. Next slide, please. So like I said, compensation and resources, we were able to provide $250 total for each cohort leader. Like I said, we started out with 10. We were supposed to have 10. We had 20. Adeeba is a money magician.
I was moving,
able to
yeah.
get folks paid. Yes, she worked it. So we were able to retain 20 leaders within the cohort, you know, given with what we had. There was a certificate and $100 for the symposium. So certificate of completion. After the symposium, we had a ceremony after the symposium where we presented all of the leaders with their certificate of completion as well. And then also a bonus was that a lot of the leaders were able to work on the planning of ABPsi today. So I think that our work is a testament of where we are today. So a lot of people, you know, didn't necessarily think that they would be able to attend the conference, that they would have access to it. Again, Adeeba, money magician, was able to secure those funds through the symposium to get a lot of our cohort leaders here in this space today.
So we were able to raise money to have 5 scholarships for student cohort participants to be able to be here. So,
Nice. Yeah.
So I'm just going to talk very briefly about the 5 workshops that were presented throughout the project. So the first one was called What is Black African-Centered Psychology? And Adeeba has this wonderful intro presentation that she does. It's so, and the thing that I think draws people in is she talks about it from her own personal experience of accessing Black African psychology, and it's so engaging. And so to have that be the first workshop that came out was important.
and we had 25 attendees.
25 attendees there. At the Into Psychotherapy training, we are blessed at CIIS to have one of our faculty members and the Dean of Diversity and Inclusion who has been trained in Into Psychology from the Progressive Life Institute. So she does a training at CIIS every year, so she did a little intro training, and one of the things that we always wanted to do was to make sure that we partnered our professionals with students or recent graduates to really foster those early career connections. And so Denise presented with Sean Stefan Bell, who is one of my students in the Expressive Arts Therapy program. And they presented that together.
And we had 21 attendees.
Thank you. It's giving us the numbers. And then we had the Black African-Centered Expressive Arts Therapy Workshop. We were in there grooving. It was so much fun. We had Dr. Shari Hicks there. Dr. Hicks. We had Dr. Adeeba Anderson. We had myself and Lynesha Kately. And it was, again, just a lot of fun. It was held at the West Oakland Youth Center. The community showed up and showed out. And
32 attendees.
There we go.
It was supposed to be 3 hours. We ended up, it was about 4.
It was a lot of information and just a lot of fun. Liberatory practices in community mental health. We were blessed to have Rachel Bryant, who's in the audience, who led that workshop and actually teaches community mental health there with Tupi.
Yeah, he was my student.
Yes,
my mentee, and now he also teaches
community mental health at CIIS. So there's just a lot of mentoring and
we have 30 attendees.
Okay. So there's just a lot of mentoring mentoring in our community. And then the final workshop was professionals in the field, in the mental health field, a career panel discussion. And how many attendees?
24. So I'll go back to this slide. So this slide is impressive.
Yes.
Because, so the two folks that you see at the beginning, that's a married couple. And they are powerful married couple. And Lynesha recommended them, so you can tell us a little bit about them.
Yes, so that is Dr. Aaron Horn and Colette Horn, who have worked in the community for years and have their own agency, and I'm blanking on the name right now, I apologize for that. But they've been working in the field for years. Dr. Horn works at Lincoln Child Center. You might be familiar with that if you're in the Bay Area, as well as Colette.
And then in the center is Elle Parker. She's one of our leadership cohort participants, and she's a community healer. And so one of the things that we wanted again to emphasize is that to be a professional in the field of mental health and mental wellness, and psychospiritual wellness, isn't limited to having letters behind your name.
Right.
And so Elle was there representing the community. Next to her is, and this sister was amazing. She attended, her and her husband. We were all over the Bay Area. We had workshops on. Oh, okay. It's 11:25. Oh my God! So we had workshops on both sides of the Bay, and these folks, they never missed a workshop. And then lastly is Rauly, who is here. He's one of the cohort participants. Okay, so then really fast because we started late. Sorry. So the last one is the symposium. So we had 49 attendees at the symposium, and overall the project, it was really beautifully balanced. So we had 47% of the folks who were students, 43% were artists, identified as artists, 30% is community workers, 17% is teachers, and 5% identified as healers. And so this quote, so we'll get to it, was really, really powerful because it really encapsulated our intention. So I really feel like everybody and all the experience we had were well supported. It was like a shawl that was wrapped all around us and brought us together, saying you're okay and you are in a good place and we are validate who you are. And this is what we call professionals. Nice. And so this is what the point was of the whole thing. So I'll skip over the rest of this because I want really, if we can, just have just a couple of minutes. If Rauly and Muriel and a couple of other folks who participated in cohort, if you could just say a couple of words about what your experience was, that we'll close out with that.
No pressure. Like a couple of
Well, I'll just say that it was crucial for me to connect. Oh, okay.
You know, it's time. Your time is up at 45 after.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, because we started late, so I apologize. So we will end here. If you have any questions, you are correct, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Come and talk to us in the hall.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You can have a moment to like wrap up your thoughts. Like it's okay. I'm a little late. If you need a moment, like a couple minutes to just wrap up, I'm okay. You know, it's spirit. It's okay.
Okay, appreciate it.
I'm okay.
All right, thank you.
It's okay. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say that it's been crucial for me to connect with other people in my field and community who really want to support ourselves. And, you know, I didn't have a relationship with ABPsi. I didn't have a relationship with Black psychology. I did take Denise's into psychotherapy, but that was it. So this was my introduction into all of this. And now I intend to be a lifetime member. So it's really like ended up being transformational, and the people that are in the cohort I intend to stay connected with, and I know will be crucial for my growth and just as a professional. It's just been really, really important. Yeah.
Yeah, just real quickly to wrap up, I just want to say that quote was amazing. That quote really encapsulated what the project was about, and it was really just connecting with people in the same worldview, right? This African, Black-centered worldview that's outside of what we're used to and taught to and all believe in. And the validating part for me is huge because I'm transitioning into mental health. That's why I was a part of that, workshop there. But this piece of paper right here is gold. I'm an ABPsi member now. That's on my resume, and I know that through this community that I'm going to end up where I need to be. So thank you.